Hello guys, welcome back to Margot Watches Movies. My name is Jake Margot, and today we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4. This premiered yesterday on Sunday. I'm a day late, maybe $1 short. I was sick all weekend, my dog was sick all weekend, so it was more about trying to rest and getting ready for the work week. But I have watched the episode, and I'd like to share my thoughts with you about it. This was a mixed bag of an episode, to say the least. I'll start with the good. And with some context, I am someone that has played the games quite a bit. I'm a big fan of the first one especially. The second one, I go some days loving it, some days hating it, mostly because of the Joel decision that we're all dealing with now. And I think the two best aspects of this episode was you got a little bit more depth with Isaac, not quite as much as I thought they would with how they opened the episode up. Isaac in his Fedra gear. If you're not familiar with The Last of Us lore, Fedra is basically like federal police that would, in most cases under authoritarian regime, keep the quarantine zones in check around major cities once the infection broke out. So you get the reveal Isaac was once a Fedra agent. He double crosses a interesting cameo from Drake and Josh's Josh Peck, and ends up joining the Wolves and becomes the leader of them, which is a component of the game. And that's played by the wonderful Jeffrey Wright, who actually did the motion capture and performance for Isaac in the game as well. So you get an interesting little look into him. I don't think they did a whole lot with it other than maybe to show his ruthlessness, which, you know, it did a good job at that. And the other aspect I liked of this episode was an extended sequence around the middle half of the episode between with Ellie and Dina when they go to the radio station. And this is basically like a combat section in the game. So when I say that, I mean like you're playing as Ellie and you're having to go around and try and kill all these people. So that leading into the subway where you had the infected, that was a very tense, thrilling sequence. And it looked like most of the episode's budget went to that subway sequence, because the rest of the episode for me was bad. It was a failure all around, in my opinion. A lot of pandering. And if you don't like that, I don't know what to say. You know, if you don't like my opinion on that, I'm sorry. But again, I'm a big fan of the games. I have no issue with Ellie's sexuality, and I think the games handled it pretty well. And the big difference in this week to how the game handled it is because of that episode 2 where they switched Ellie and Dina to Dina and Joel when Abby, you know, tees off on Joel's head. In the game, it was Tommy, Joel's brother with Joel, and Ellie and Dina are on patrol. And Ellie and Dina have their hookup scene early on in the game, which makes a lot more sense for a number of reasons. The stakes hadn't quite raised so high. They were kind of in their little teen fairyland. They find a bunch of weed like they show with Ellie and Jesse in episode 2, and they smoke and they hook up, and it's more of a teenage thing. But coming after the death of Joel, coming after what was such a powerful moment in the game of Dina telling Ellie I'm pregnant, and then that kind of leapfrogs right into day 2. It's almost like a little mini cliffhanger within the game. Having them hook up after Dina says I'm pregnant was just dumbfounding to me. It made no sense. I don't know if Neil Druckmann has ever hooked up with a woman before, or I don't get it. There's nothing there's nothing that's like it should be an aphrodisiac about saying I'm pregnant with somebody else's child and immediately cut into this passionate sex scene on a dirty theater floor after the death of Joel. You know, before it kind of made sense. They were out on patrol. It was part of their routine life. In this context, it did not work at all. And you had plenty of pandering and as the critical drinker would say, the message abound, and it was really just so pointless. It really took away from what could have been a much better episode. And I think a big part of the problem now is I have my theories on how they could have handled this much better, which is you just simply swap Joel's death and make it Tommy. Tommy valiantly, selflessly reveals himself to be Joel, to save Joel, and he gets killed. I think that fixes basically all the controversy in the game. And in the game, Tommy goes to Seattle before Ellie and Dina, so you're playing catch up to Tommy in the game. That's not the case here. So I don't know why they didn't just do that for the show, because it seems like they're sidelining Tommy to just chill back in Jackson. And I don't know. We need an adult in the frame, and maybe that's what they were trying to do with Isaac, but Isaac's kind of, as you could tell, he's a potential antagonist. He's the leader of the Wolves. He's a ruthless guy, but not having Tommy here, not having any cutback to Tommy for the last 2 episodes, this was not a good episode. It had some thrilling moments and a really nice high point, culminating in the subway sequence with the infected. That was really well done, but there's way too much pandering, way too much of Neil Druckmann showing his political hand and what he thinks, and it's just yet another way to alienate your audience. And I don't see this season ending well ratings-wise compared to the first, and losing Pedro Pascal, the character Joel, is going to do that. I think they've already lost 20% of their viewership from episode 2 to episode 3. I'm not sure if it's come back up or gone down further on this last episode, but this is not. It was not good television for the most part, other than a few riveting sequences, and a lot of it just comes down to heavy-handed politics. You can show without telling, but this episode shows and it tells, and then it slams it over your face with a sledgehammer, and it's not the way that this story should be told. And I thought with a second chance, and I thought with Craig Mazin there, kind of acting as the Bruce Straley role, who Neil Druckmann pushed out from the first game, and a lot of people in the know credit Bruce Straley for really having the meat and potatoes, really putting together the story for the first game, who was then pushed out by Neil Druckmann. I just thought Craig Mazin might rein in some of his crazier, political stuff that he likes to go for, because wherever you fall on the political tree, I think shows like this are better when you stick to universal themes, which the first game in season 1 did, right? They pitched in some like weird communist stuff, and I'm an American. I'll never like communism, and if you're a communist, don't watch these videos. But what a misfire. I'm gonna give this episode a 4 out of 10, and that's really just because of an extended sequence in the middle and a funny Josh Peck cameo at the start. But I hope it gets better from here. We haven't seen Abby in 2 episodes. I don't know if they're saving that more for like season 3, but I thought with the narrative shift of going from gaming to TV, you would be able to kind of showcase Abby a little bit more. They're just kind of keeping her off. That whole Jackson 5 gang has just been sidelined for 2 episodes, minus a little stint from Manny in the last episode. But this was not a very good episode. Heavy-handed politics is never going to be a win on either side of the aisle, and it was just too much. Show, don't tell. Tell, don't show. But don't do both and then hit us over the head with a sledgehammer. So this is Margo Watches Movies. This is my review of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4. And again, 4 out of 10. Not very good at all. Thanks for joining.